What's up guys, Rob from Legit Brownies Gaming here, bringing you a different kind of video. In this video we're going to be doing a deep dive analysis on a recent game that I played during a recent tournament. So this video is basically going to be very heavily influenced by TurnDownForWalt. If you haven't watched any of TurnDownForWalt's series called Frame Data, or just his videos in general, I highly recommend it. He makes incredibly high quality melee content. He's super knowledgeable and it's just an amazing product. And if you're a big fighting game plat fighter nerd like I am, who loves getting into like the nitty gritty of like frame data and why things hit, why things didn't, and just really deep diving on the fact that in these games, you know, 1 or 2 frames makes a huge difference, then you'll love Walt's video, and hopefully you'll enjoy this one. So I will put a link to TurnDownForWalt's channel down in the description because I highly recommend you check out his stuff. And I also do want to say that, yes, this is a set that I played in, but I think it's kind of funny if we do the whole objective outside observer thing, which is why you're going to be hearing myself talk about myself in the third person. Like, I'm going to be referring to myself as Legit Brownies Gaming or Brownies. So you might be like, but dude, that's you. And it's like, yeah, actually that is me. Good point. But I think it's just kind of funny if we do this like meta, ooh, outside observer, deep diving on the video kind of situation. And also, I mean, this kind of analysis is objective, right? It's not subjective. I'm not going to be talking about, oh, my thinking, my rationale, or whatever here. It's just what happened during the game. So, yeah, I will stop bugging you now. So I hope you enjoy the video. The tournament is NASB Jr. 4, a monthly Arcadian held by Cherry. This is a set between Helga main Protom and Garfield main Legit Brownies Gaming. This set is a top 8 qualifier, a feat both players have only achieved in tournaments with at least 16 entrants once, Protom at NASB Jr. 3 and Brownies at NASB Jr. 2. These two competitors have actually met once before, with Protom taking a 2-0 set over Legit Brownies Gaming at Metro Monday 7, with both players using the same character. This is Game 1 on Sweet Dreams. This game is a perfect example of why every pixel and why every frame matters. Let's take a look. Something that seems small, but actually will become consequential later on, happens pretty early in the game. At 554, Brownies finds a jab off of a down air by Protom, and follows it up with a second jab, which puts Protom into a tech chase situation. He misses the tech and now has to decide whether he wants to do a get up attack, neutral get up, or roll away, or roll in. Protom opts for the roll out, which Brownies reads and finds him with a light dash to down strong at ledge. This doesn't lead to the taking of Protom's stock, but it does put him in a pretty bad situation, and this situation will come up later with much more consequential outcome. We don't see the first stock taken in this match until 455, where Brownies finds an up strong to seal the first stock away from Protom. Now, what's interesting to note about this is Helga was actually in the middle of using her down tilt when this up strong hit. Helga's down tilt is actually a very interesting part of her kit. It has a 6-frame startup, it is active from frames 6 to 10, deals 8%, but it has a decent amount of end lag, 22 frames. Meaning that Helga will be active on frame 33 after the move is initiated. In this particular interaction, Brownie's up strong actually hit on the 29th frame of Protom's down tilt, a 3-frame difference, only 4 frames off from being active again, which is important to note because shields in Nickelodeon come up on frame 1. So had Protom been able to both shield and parry the up strong, and they would have been parrying the first frame of its active hitbox due to how close the two combatants were, Protom would have had a whopping 27 frames to work with off of the parry, meaning that he could have gotten out any of his strongs. A neutral strong would have killed at no DI and DI down, and most likely would have killed on survival DI up, if not for an incredibly precise jump and air dash momentum cancel that would have also put Brownies in an edgeguard position. Down strong would have killed at all DI, and up strong only would have killed on a very bad DI in from Brownies. So 4 frames would have been the difference between Brownies taking his first stock off Protom, or had Protom parried, having 27 frames with to work to take Brownies' first stock. The next stock wouldn't be taken until 422, when Protom finds a jab on Brownies at 180%, and that seals his first stock. It's worth noting that Perfect DI and Momentum Cancel could have lived this hit, but Helga's jab is actually pretty powerful and is a decent kill option, especially at high percent. Now in this interaction, 4 frames again plays an interesting point, however this time it goes in Protom's favor. So Brownies attempts to down tilt out of shield after blocking Protom's first jab. Now what's interesting to note is that in Nickelodeon you are actionable frame 1 as soon as you drop your shield, as long as you're not in shield stun. So Brownies, being out of shield stun, is able to down tilt frame 1, however he doesn't start the down tilt until frame 4. And by this time it's too late, because Helga's jab comes out at frame 7, whereas Garfield's down tilt comes out at frame 6. So had Brownies been even 1 frame quicker, these two moves would have clanked. However, because he was a little bit late getting his down tilt out, the moves did not clank, and instead he ate the jab and lost the stock. So 4 frames once again made a difference between potentially keeping your stock and losing it. Also note that Brownies was able to tack on 69% of extra credit after taking Protom's first stock. That number is going to be important later, so keep that in mind. Protom is able to find his second stock with a reverse snare slingshot aerial up strong combo, and his third stock with another slingshot to aerial up strong combo. While these 2 kills might not have had any crazy frame data shenanigans, it is important to note the disparity in damage dealt and stocks taken since Protom lost their first stock. Since that first stock, Brownies had only managed to deal another 43%, while Protom had tacked on 298% and taken 3 stocks. Brownies would eventually get back on the board, taking Protom's second stock at 241, a full 2 minutes and 14 seconds of game time since taking that first stock. At 245, Brownies finds a grab off of a missed dash attack, which lets him do a down throw off stage. He tries to cover all of the options possible by throwing out a snare and a strong dare, before eventually finding the strong neutral on Protom's roll from ledge. Roll from ledge in Nick Brawl is intangible from frames 1 to frames 27. There are 35 total animation frames, meaning that you are vulnerable from frame 28 to frame 35. In this particular instance, Brownie starts Garf's neutral strong on frame 16 of Protom's roll. Protom had only lost intangibility 2 frames before this neutral strong connects. Garfield's neutral strong has a 15 frame startup, is active from frames 15 to 19, with 47 total frames in the animation. What's interesting to note because of this interaction is the spacing of Brownies was actually perfect to cover this option. Protom can't roll through him at this distance, and because of the distance he's placed himself at, he actually has a pretty wide window with which to start the neutral strong in order to connect before Protom can do anything. Brownies could have started this neutral strong anywhere from frame 10 to frame 21 in order to connect and make this a true hit. Any earlier and he would have hit Protom during his intangibility frames, any later and Protom can get his shield up starting on a 36th frame after he initiated the ledge roll. As a result, Protom eats this neutral strong and there is no survival DI on this one. Brownies has managed to find his second stock of the game. It's immediately after this that we see what I consider to be the most important interaction in this entire game. At 238, Protom respawns, and it's worth noting that in Nick Brawl, when you respawn, so long as you don't input an attack or a special, you can use your air dash, that you have intangibility from frames 1 to frame 59. And we actually see this coming into play as Protom is able to completely just shake off a nair from Brownies using his intangibility. Right after that, Protom finds a grab on a misspaced nair from Brownies and gets an up throw which he true combos into Helga's up air. And it's at this point that we need to slow this down and take a deeper look. We can see that Protom went for a second light up air to extend the combo, and that Brownies was able to light dare out of this. If we pause, however, we do see that Protom's light up air was actually active when Brownies was able to light dare out. The issue being that this is the first frame of light up air's activity, and since Helga is not really extending her arm, the hitbox was not extended enough, so Brownies won this interaction outright. If Protom had been even 1 frame quicker, this would have traded. What's even more interesting to note is that if Protom would have won this interaction outright, this could have led to an even bigger follow-up. If Protom would have won this interaction outright, and we assume that he would have won on his frame 2 of his active hitboxes, this would have been frame 8 of the overall move. Had this hit, this would have resulted in 14 frames of end lag for Protom and 22 frames of Hitstun for Brownies. By the time Brownies would have gotten out of Hitstun, Protom would have had 7 frames of actionability to try and follow up with another light up air. And had Protom acted frame perfectly, he could have gotten a true light up air follow-up. Now, while all of that is really interesting, I think one of the most interesting things we can take a look at here is what would have happened had Protom gone for a strong up air instead of another light up air. Helga's strong up air comes out at frame 16. Now, given that Brownies would have only had 7 frames of Hitstun left, that means Brownies would have had 9 frames with which to get away, either by air dashing or jumping out. Now, what's really interesting is if we take a look at what would have happened had he tried to trade with a light dare or his nair. In this theoretical, Brownies would have had 9 frames to act before Helga's strong up air would have connected. He would have had to have gotten his fastest move started, which is his light dare at frame 5, in frames 1, 2, or 3. Even had he started his light dare on frame 4, this means that his light dare would start being active on the same frame as Helga's strong up air, and Helga's strong up air would have won that interaction, sealing the game for Protom. So basically, if Brownies had panicked and tried to use a move to get out of the situation, he would have had 3 frames to initiate it. Frame 1, frame 2, or frame 3. Frame 4 later, and even his fastest move isn't enough, and Protom would have taken this with a pretty convincing JV3. Just 27 seconds later, Brownies finds a grab after applying pressure to Protom's shield and doing a dash back to avoid Protom's grab himself, and gets a down throw off stage. At this point, given that his other edgeguard attempts with down strong have been pretty unsuccessful, he goes for a Pookie Spike. And let's take a second to talk about what Pookie Spike is. Pookie is a trap that Garfield can lay by using his down special. When you use the down special first, you throw Pookie out, and then when you hit down special again, Pookie is recalled towards you. Now, what's interesting to note is that usually Pookie will knock your opponent in the direction in which he's recalled. So if Pookie is behind your opponent and you recall Pookie towards you, your opponent will also be knocked towards you. When using Pookie as an edge guard, you typically want to press down special to recall when Pookie intercepts with your opponent's hurt box. If you time this properly, usually your opponent will actually be sent either downward or at an awkward side angle, as we see in this clip. One of the potential downfalls of using Pookie as an edge guard, however, is if you recall Pookie too late and he's below your opponent when you recall, your opponent will actually be knocked upwards towards stage, helping them recover. However, Brownies times it right. Protom isn't able to act even when he's out of Hitstun from the hit, and all of a sudden, this game is turned around, and it's 1 stock to 1 stock. So I just wanted to show this next clip just to show how close Protom's hitbox was to Brownie's hurtbox. I mean, that's pretty much as close as you can get without actually getting a hit. Now, had this hit, this probably would have been pretty inconsequential given the low level of charge on Helga's up B here. And it actually might have been better for Protom's case that he didn't hit, considering that had he hit, this would have just put Brownies on stage in a better position with which to ledge trap. But I just wanted to bring it up because that's a pretty close miss. However, this next near miss is not so inconsequential. At 156, Protom goes for a down strong on the recovering Brownies, and he just barely misses again. Now, I estimate that he's maybe only 2 or 3 frames off from actually landing the hit here, and at this position, at this percent, a down strong from Helga would have killed at no DI and DI down, and DI up would have only barely saved Brownies and still put him in an edgeguard position. So had Protom been roughly 2 to 3 frames quicker and had his hitbox out while Brownies was close to the edge of the platform, this could have been a potentially game-ending hit. Just 3 seconds after Protom had a chance to end the game, Brownies finds him with a Pookie hit into a jab, which sets Protom up into a tech situation. He misses the tech, and just like at the very beginning of the game, now he has to make a choice whether to get up attack, roll in, roll out, or neutral get up. Brownies, perhaps remembering his choice from the beginning of the game, reads the rollout and gets him with the light dash to a down strong at ledge. This sets up for an edgeguard position in which Brownies, perhaps taking notes of his failed edgeguards with down strong earlier, goes for the strong dare, and he hits it at 148, ultimately ending the game. Of course, true to the tight nature of this game, this kill also had some frame data shenanigans. A trade would not have saved Protom here. he would have gotten sent to the bottom blast zone off a trade, so he needs to win his interaction outright. Now, Garf's strong dare hitbox had only been out for 3 frames, meaning that had Brownies even been 4 frames later in executing his strong dare, Protom likely would have gotten a hit off of his up special and been able to grab ledge. This would have put Brownies in a really awkward position to be edge guarded by Protom if he just didn't die outright to a stage spike. So again, 4 frames made a huge difference. Brownies being 4 frames earlier on his strong dare meant that that hitbox was out and there was nothing really to save Protom at this point. After this game concluded, the two ran it back to Sweet Dreams, in which Brownies would clean up the set 2-0 with a simple jab to aerial up strong combo on a game that actually almost went to time. All in all, if we look at some of the very close frame data battles that we had in this game, we can make the following statements. 4 frames of end lag on Helga's down tilt cost Protom his first stock. He lost intangibility 2 frames before getting hit with Garf's neutral strong on stock number 2. An estimated 3 frames later on the Pookie spike on stock number 3 might have sent Protom upwards, so we'll add another 3 frames in that one. I'll estimate 3 frame earlier execution of Helga's down strong could have won Protom the game off of the platform hit. Had Brownies been 4 frames later on executing his S-Dare, assuming Protom releases his up special at the same time, this likely would have saved Protom because the S-Dare hitbox would not have been out. All in all, that's a total of 16 frames that basically changed the course of the game. If we look at the clock right before the game officially ends with the banner coming up, we see that it reads 1:48:11. Given that each game starts at 6 minutes, that means that this game ran for 4 minutes, 11 seconds, and 49 frames. Because this game runs at 60 FPS, in those 4 minutes we have 14,400 frames, in those 11 seconds we have 660 frames, and the extra 49 frames we would need to get up to the full 6 minutes. In total, this game ran for 15,109 total frames. The 16 frames that made a significant difference in this game total up to less than 1%. In fact, it's not even close to 1%, it's 0.10%. It just goes to show you how every single frame and every single pixel matters. These 16 frames took what could have been a potential game loss and swung it into a game win for Brownies, which he then rode into a set win. So, even though you might not notice it while you're playing the game and you're in the action, every frame really does matter. Thanks for watching.